Welcome to this interview with Christian Pepe, founder of Doc Pepe's Lab Distillery, owner of restaurants Vesuvio and Little Napoli. He's a baseball coach and he hits dingers in softball. Welcome, Christian
Thank you.
Pepe.
Thank you, Jack. Pleasure to be here. Good to
Yes,
be back in
sir.
the booth. It's been almost 20 years since I've been in here.
Yeah, it's been a while, but you're back and it's an interview, and I think it's going to be awesome. So let's get right into it. So you are the founder of Doc Pepe's Lab, the distillery. So how did you get your business started? How did you start Doc Pepe's Lab?
I started it, so when I graduated college, I started working for my family's restaurant and I started bartending. And right around that time, there was a bartender up in Oregon who had kind of created what are called barrel-aged cocktails. That's where you make a cocktail that's all spirits and nothing that's going to go bad. And they put it in a barrel and age it, and it comes out very smooth and rounded, and it tastes delicious. And I tried one for the first time, and I was shocked how good it was. And we started making them at our bar. And one day I had this idea, why don't we take this liquid that was kind of in like a basic looking bottle and make a brand out of it, make a label for it and put it up on the bar. It would only be sold at the restaurant at that point, but let's put it up on the bar and see what happens. So we picked out a bottle and made a label, put it up on the bar, and people started asking about it. People wanted to buy bottles off the shelf. And of course, not allowed to do that because we're a restaurant, not a liquor store.
Yeah.
And I thought, hey, maybe this could actually be a thing. So I took it to a trade show before I even had a license or anything. And I was probably the most popular booth at this trade show. And then I looked into what does it take to actually, they call it going legal. What does it take to go legal, get your full-on distillery license? And I decided to do it. And that was, I got my license in 2014.
Okay, that's actually incredible. And so you were just, everyone wanted to try it. Everyone thought it was amazing.
Yeah, that was, nowadays you can go to the store and you can find all kinds of, they're called RTDs, which means ready to drink. At the time, there was very few RTDs, and there was no barrel-aged RTDs at all. There was no, like, high-end RTDs. The RTDs that were available were very, very cheap, like in a can or just kind of really not very good. And so I kind of had this idea to create this new category of an ultra-premium RTD.
Yeah, so
that's what I
before
did.
that time, they had to buy their own and make it themselves.
Right.
But you just made it easier by making it and then selling it.
Right. And nowadays there's tons of RTDs. I mean, the RTD category has exploded just in the last 5 years. All the big players are getting into it. I'm still one of the only ones that actually puts the cocktails in a barrel.
No, that's actually very impressive. So what was the hardest part about starting Doc Pepe's Lab?
Well, about starting it, I'd say finding the location, because you can't apply for your license before you have an actual building. So you need to start paying rent somewhere, and it's got to be zoned properly. At the time, I didn't know what I needed and what I didn't need, and price, rent money, plays a factor into that. So we kind of found something that it worked. It worked for many years. It was in Monterey. But we looked all over the peninsula for a warehouse essentially to do it in. And like I said, I didn't know logistically what it was going to be like to try to create like hundreds of gallons of this stuff. I'd only made at the time maybe like the biggest batch I ever made was 10 gallons.
Yeah.
It's one thing to make a 5-gallon batch or a 10-gallon batch where you can actually lift up the bucket and dump it through a funnel and dump it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Once you start dealing with things that weigh, say you use a 55-gallon drum.
Yeah.
I remember the first day I had a 55-gallon drum. I filled it up with whiskey, and then I realized I couldn't move it.
Yeah.
It's too heavy to move. And okay. So I learned what a drum dolly was. But yeah, I'd say finding the building was the hardest part. Applying for the license took months and months. At one point, actually, a man I met at that trade show was a alcohol lawyer, and he offered to help me get my license.
Yeah.
And he had a meeting with him. He said, okay, here's what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to fill out your paperwork, da-da-da-da. Here's what it's going to cost. It's going to cost you $20,000. And I said, how much of that $20,000 is your fee, and how much of it is what the license actually costs from the government? And he said, oh, the government doesn't charge you for that. I was like, okay, I think I'll just do this
So you
myself.
just do it yourself.
Yeah. So it took me a lot longer than if he had done it, of course. But I worked on it every day for months and months. It's a very complicated application.
But you saved 20 grand.
I did. Yeah. Took me a long time, but I finally figured it out, applied, and finally they
Did you say
approved it.
it was worth it?
Oh, it's definitely worth
Okay.
it. And those licenses, once you submit it, they take about 4 or 5 months just to process because
Yeah.
the government's so slow. So I finally got it. But yeah,
Nice. So the warehouse was the hardest part.
I'd say so.
Yeah. All right. So what do you think the key to your success is?
Oh man, define the success. The key to my success is just going to work every day and trying to stay current on all. I mean, because I do everything. I don't have any employees. I do all my accounting. I fulfill all the orders. I touch every bottle.
Yeah.
It's
wow.
it's very easy to get behind.
Uh-huh.
So staying current, staying on top of everything, and then just making a really good product and actually caring about what goes in it. I think
Uh-huh. You do everything.
I do everything.
Wow.
I make every single batch. I bottle every single bottle. I have a guy who comes in and helps me from time to time bottling, but every batch I make by hand. It's about caring what you're putting in the bottle, just like at the restaurant. The key to our success there really is really caring about what goes on the plate
Uh-huh.
and the ingredients, the base ingredients. Trying it, going to the restaurant. Quality control.
Yeah. Wow.
Caring, really, it comes down to caring. A lot
Yeah.
of people can get complacent in what they're doing.
So what makes a bad entrepreneur?
What makes a bad entrepreneur? Someone who's not willing to evolve or adapt. Someone who's kind of stuck in thinking that their way of thinking is the best and the only way of thinking. There's this little phrase I like. It's called evolve or dissolve.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be willing to look at yourself in the mirror and your business in the mirror and be like, can we make a change here? Should we make a change? Can we pivot? You got to stay on your toes and you got to be willing to check yourself, essentially.
Okay. That's good feedback. So how do you balance baseball coaching and work? Because you do a lot, because you're doing it all by yourself as well as coaching. So how do you balance that?
I stay up really late at night.
Not that much sleep?
Not that much. I go to the lab in the morning, and I'm there right up until when baseball starts. I go get a little lunch right before practice. After practice, I go back to the lab, and I'm there in the evening.
And then what time do you think you go to bed after that?
Oh man, I don't go to bed till like 2.
And then what time you wake up?
Like around 8:30.
Wow. That's crazy. So you're in the lab all the time, boxing and bottling, go to baseball, take a little chunk, and then you're back.
Yep. And then on Saturdays, I go work at the restaurant.
Uh-huh.
And I bartend, and those are 9-10 hour shifts on my feet, which
That is
kill me. So I take Sunday off. I do take one day off.
Okay. Yeah, you got to have a little bit of rest if you're doing all that. And you sleep more on Sunday?
Yeah. Sunday I just recover my body, because it's a lot.
That's crazy.
And during this, right now, I work Fridays and Saturdays. But once baseball starts, I'm just Saturday because we have games on Friday.
Yeah. And then to cap it off, what is your best advice for aspiring entrepreneurs?
Ooh. Read as much as you can about whatever you're thinking about, what kind of business you're going into. I went to entrepreneurship was my emphasis in business school or my undergrad.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a business major with an emphasis in entrepreneurship. So I took entrepreneurship classes. And one of the things they always taught us was fail early, fail often. So you're never too young to start a business. One, you guys are not too young. You can start a business tomorrow if you want. There's money involved. If you start an LLC, you got to pay $800 a year, just so you know.
Yeah.
But it's okay to fail. It's okay to change. But you want to be an expert as best you can. So whatever you're selling, whatever you're doing, you want to be the expert.
Yeah.
And that'd be my best advice I can give you.
Okay.
I think, yeah. Read, become an expert.
All right. Well, thank you for coming. I think this has been a great interview. Christian Pepe, business guy, Doc Pepe's Lab, Vesuvio, baseball. He's got it all. Thank you very much. We'll see you later.
Thank you, Jack. Pleasure.
All right.